we're talking about what are natural resources. And natural resources are broken up into two categories. They're broken up into renewable and non-renewable. And give me an example of a renewable that you just said, Will.
Water.
Water, very good. So water, it is an important renewable resource. The word re means that we can make more of or do again. So when we think about these resources, re means to do again, we can make more of it. Non-renewable means we can't make any more of them. So what's another example of something that's renewable? Natalie? A pencil is renewable. Yeah, we can make more. So things like pencils. Bella?
Air.
Air. Vincent?
Food.
Food, good. Food. Jackson?
Soil.
Soil.
I have a non-renewable and
Okay, let's stick with renewable right now.
wind power.
Wind power, okay, very good. So we're gonna talk about energy. So wind energy, good. What's another one? Yes,
It's for non-renewable.
let's stick with renewable right now. We'll come back to non-renewable in just a few minutes. We're gonna try to focus on just renewable right now. Yes,
Land.
land? Land is renewable. Is it?
No.
Once you build a city, there's not an infinite amount of land. There's a finite amount, right? There's definitely soil, but not land. Yes,
Jeans.
jeans like blue jeans.
Yeah.
You saw in your book, it had that written, didn't it? Okay, so things like pencils and jeans. Yes,
Animals.
animals, that's a great one. Yep, animals. Yes. Sunlight, that's another really good one. Sunlight. Vincent?
Plants.
Plants, good. Bella?
People.
People. People are renewable. Yeah, well, that's kind of an interesting thought. Okay, so take a look on page 195 in your book. And it talks a little bit about what natural resources are. So natural resources. Are you wearing jeans? No, we're wearing uniform pants. But are your uniform pants renewable?
Yes.
Yeah, sometimes they have more than one life.
I like this.
Sometimes your brother or sister donates them to you. So yes, they can have more than one life. Are you holding a pencil? Did you drink some water today? You're using natural resources. Natural resources are supplies found in nature. Plants and animals are natural resources. So are non-living things such as air, water, soil, minerals, and sunlight. So another one we could add to our list would be minerals, are natural renewable resources. Now the hard part about minerals is, are they always non-renewable? Not always. Sometimes there's a definite amount, and there's not a finite amount. So the word finite means limited. Oops, I'm putting that on the wrong side.
Are you supposed to write that?
Yeah, you can write this. So the word finite means a certain amount of something. It is a limited amount of something. When we think of the word infinite, if you've ever heard the word infinite, you don't have to write this down. Infinite means it goes on forever. There's an infinite amount of stars in the sky. There's quite a few. But finite, this word here, it means that there's a limited amount. And so when we start talking about some things are finite, they're non-renewable, there's only a certain amount. All living things depend on natural resources. Plants need air, sunlight, soil, and water to live. People need air and water too. They use plant and animal resources for food. Earth's resources also provide the raw materials and energy that we use to make the products we need. Everything we eat, use, or buy has been made from or is a natural resource. So, do you guys have any natural resources we can identify here in the room? What's a natural resource here in our room? Alexis? Paper. Yep. Is paper renewable or non-renewable? It's It's renewable because trees can be grown. Although trees are tricky because the definition of a renewable resource is that it can be renewed within your lifetime. So old growth forests, which means forests that have been around for a very long time, that don't regrow quickly, that take hundreds and hundreds of years to grow, those aren't usually considered renewable resources. Renewable trees or forests would be ones that can grow very quickly. Pine trees are usually what they make paper out of, and that's a renewable resource. They can grow it, let them live 5 years, 10 years, 15 years, depending on what they're going to make out of it. Then they cut them down and they replant. Yes?
Clothing?
Clothing. You think clothing is renewable or non-renewable? Definitely renewable. Yep, it can have more than one life.
Same thing.
Vance. Grass. Renewable or non-renewable? Renewable, yep. That goes under our plants category, absolutely. Natalie?
Mask.
I'm sorry?
Mask.
Okay, our masks. That's an interesting one. Sure, masks could be renewable, especially when we make them out of cloth and we can wash them. Vincent?
The ocean?
The ocean. You think the ocean's renewable? Or is there a fixed amount of ocean?
Yeah, because I mean if it rains it'll...
So water is, and the water cycle, what we start to talk about when we have to consider when we're talking about natural resources, some of these things can have pollution. And so pollution, even though it's a renewable resource, pollution cuts down of the quality of what we have. So let's turn in our books to page 196, please. 196. Did you have a question?
No, for like a natural resource.
Yes.
Iron, and that's non-renewable?
I think so, yes. A lot of things that we would consider, some minerals would be in this category of non-renewable. Things like iron ore, or gold, and silver, and diamonds, because there's a limited amount of those things. Yes?
Coal?
Coal is a non-renewable resource. Okay, put your hands down and let's take a look at page 196, please. Question, yes.
So like, how do you make rubber?
Rubber is made from a rubber plant. It actually comes from a liquid that's very sticky. It actually has a plant that makes it. Plastic is made from petroleum, so like plastic water bottles and things are made from oil. So petroleum comes from the ground, which is non-renewable, and they use oil to make plastic water bottles and petroleum. Okay, take a look at page 196, please.
Wait.
Hold that thought. I don't know all the answers for you. I will look to see if I can think of a How We Were Made movie about rubber.
It's another question.
Yes.
It's like, so I'm guessing petroleum wouldn't be that strong.
It wouldn't be that strong?
Yeah.
Well, plastic can be very strong depending on how they make it. All right, continue on page 196, please. 196. It says renewable resources. Is everybody at the top of the page? You see the water puddle on the page? Okay. Earth has two types of natural resources, renewable and non-renewable. Renewable resources are resources that can be replaced. Take your pencil or your highlighter and highlight that sentence. Your pencil or your highlighter and highlight this definition of renewable resources. Renewable resources are resources that can be replaced. Plants and animals are examples of renewable resources. So is the oxygen in the air we breathe. These resources are renewable as long as they are replaced as fast as they can be used. So that's another sentence I want everybody to highlight and pay attention to. That last sentence. These resources are renewable as fast as long. These resources are renewable as long as they are replaced as fast as they can be used. So that's the example that I gave you of things like old growth forests. We can have trees and forests be a renewable resource to us if it's something that can be renewed in our lifetime. You wouldn't want to cut down trees that take hundreds of years to grow. And there are some forests, like in California, like sequoias, that have trees that have been around for hundreds of years. And you wouldn't want to cut them down because it takes so long. And those would be more considered a non-renewable resource. Yes?
One
I'm not sure, but I wouldn't want to cut down redwood trees.
Yeah, they take
I don't
like
think it's a good
thousands.
idea. Take a long time. All right, let's take a look at the next paragraph, please, where it says water. Water is one of our most important renewable resources. All living things need water to survive. Humans also use water for things such as cooking and bathing. Earth constantly recycles its water through precipitation and evaporation. And what is precipitation and evaporation part of? It's part of the water cycle. And so we also know that it has storage and evaporation, precipitation, and it goes through the water cycle, so we know that's renewable. However, the quality of the water is at stake based on how we care for our environment. So the next part's going to include a little bit about what percentage is drinkable water. This makes water a renewable resource, but only 1% of Earth's water is drinkable. The rest is either salt water in the oceans or frozen in glaciers and polar ice caps. Also, not all people live near water sources. So gathering drinkable water and keeping it safe for people to use takes time and more resources. So I want to draw you a quick picture of the world's water supply. So if we look at, I'm going to draw it here. Can everybody see this? Okay. So think about the world as that circle. Only 1% of that world's water supply is drinkable. The Earth's water supply, the Earth is about 75% water. I see a lot of people playing with their masks instead of wearing them. I'll wait. So the Earth is filled with 75% water. But it is what kind of water? What kind of water is it? It's salt water. So this is 75% water. 1% of that 75% is drinkable. Another 2% is frozen in polar ice caps, or in some part of the world is frozen, and so it's not drinkable. So the word drinkable water, there's another word for drinkable, and I'd like you to write this down. It's called potable. It is not portable with an R, but it's potable without the R, and it means drinkable. Potable water means drinkable. So there's only 1% of the Earth's water that's drinkable, and so we have a limited, even though it's a renewable resource, we have to be careful that we don't pollute it, because there is a finite amount, a limited amount of drinkable water. Yes?
Why can't we drink like water from the Arctic?
You
like
can.
if it's not frozen.
You could. All water that's in nature you would want to filter out in some way. It would need to be cleaned in some way. Salt water can go through a process called desalinization, which is where you take the salt out, but it's expensive and it's not very easy to do. So that's why desalinization, or making salt water into fresh water, is difficult. The science isn't there yet. Yes?
So, one day my dad and I were camping out in the wild, and so he taught me how to purify water with just a box and some material.
Awesome, very cool. So you were able to make a filter out of it to clean it. And that's important, because if not, they have bacteria and other living organisms that live in it. So you always want to clean it. Yes?
There's something called the life straw, and it takes out 99.9%.
Yes. So there's definitely things out there.
And I used it once, and it was like so clean, because we were out camping and we had a stream in our backyard, and I had it, and it's cleaner than the water we drink normally.
Sure, yeah. There's definitely ways to filter out water. But again, naturally occurring, only 1% is naturally occurring already filtered for us. Yes?
Also, it's like where it's like this machine thing where it's like you pump water into it, and it comes out the other end filtered.
Very cool.
Oh yeah.
Awesome. Yes.
Can we go to the Arctic
plastic and melt the water?
Yes, but do you know the problem where where do most of us live? We live in Florida, right? Some of you live near the water, right? So if the polar ice caps melt, and if they melt, the water level rises, and do you see the problem with that? Flooding.
Florida will be flooding.
So anywhere that would be near water would be flooding. So that wouldn't be a good way to go get more water. We wouldn't want to go melt the ice caps. Yes, they're there for a reason.
No,
I live like on the water, but there's a hill,
Yep.
but it still probably could flood the hill.
It could, and that's why you would want to make sure that we don't go, that's not a reasonable answer to come up with fresh water. Okay, I need to move on, and you guys are fantastic at participating right now, but I do need to move on a little bit. So, we're gonna stop at, renewable resources on the next page. We're gonna go through the rest of this page, and then we're gonna stop, and we're gonna leave these notes for tomorrow. So let's go ahead and look at the next page. I'm sorry, it's the same page. We were under water still. It says only 1% of Earth's water is drinkable. Another word for drinkable is potable. The rest is either salt water in the oceans or frozen in glaciers and polar ice caps. Also, not all people live near water sources. Gathering drinkable water and keeping it safe for people to use takes time and more resources. Let's take a look on page 197. So Chris said that wind energy is a great example of a renewable resource, and he's absolutely right. Water energy is called hydroelectric power. That's another good example of using energy from power from energy from water. And then we also can use sunlight. And so where you have the word sunlight, you can write solar energy, because that also becomes a renewable resource. So let's take a look on page 197, please. Yes,
I'm pretty sure hydro means water.
it does. You're absolutely right. All right, page 197. People use energy to run machines, heat and cool homes, and help grow food. Solar energy is a renewable resource. Energy from the sun can be used to heat buildings. Solar cells can change energy from the sun into electrical energy. Wind is another source of renewable energy. Windmills can be used to run machinery and to produce electricity. Solar and wind energy do not cause pollution. Sunlight will not run out for billions of years, but neither solar nor wind energy are available all the time, so they're not reliable all the time. Some people think windmills are noisy or ugly. Systems to collect solar energy are expensive to make, and factories that make certain kinds of solar cells also can produce dangerous waste. So even though they are good alternatives to energy and using non-renewable resources, they have their pitfalls too. They have their downfalls. Okay, did everybody get a chance to write all those down?
Awesome.
Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and erase that. I'm gonna show you a quick video, and then we'll move on to the next one if there's time.
Hey, did you finish the video that we watched yesterday?